All right. Episode 5 of Friends for Good. We're back. Zach Lehner, Carson Fowler. Again, we are doing things a little differently this week. We are back at home this time. We are back at home base in Green Bay and New York, but we've got our stories that we have actually discussed before the show because our shows are sort of an interesting theme this week. We got such positive feedback from people that watched our reels last week on the story about calling boomers and calling zoomers and combating loneliness that we decided to make that our theme. So combating loneliness and the strategies to kind of go about that. And then we're also going to have a conversation about the difference between solitude and loneliness that Zach will help lead as well. So that's kind of how things are going to go. And then, of course, we're going to end the show with our silent heroes and our wins of the week, and our quotes, which are kind of bleed into our conversation. But with that said, Zach's going to lead us off with our first story. We talked about this ahead of the show, and I think this was, if anything, it embodies what a top story is. So, Zach, you have the floor, brother.
Thank you, Carson. So today's top story is about intergenerational co-living. So there's a really interesting housing idea that's been growing, and it's tackling loneliness in a way that also solves another problem. So in places like the Netherlands, students are actually living inside senior living communities, often rent-free. So the only expectation that these students have, not paying rent, is that they spend time with the residents, talking, sharing meals, and just being present in each other's lives. And so programs like Humanitas Deventer, which is just Deventer, if you don't know, is just a city in the Netherlands. They've been doing this, and the results have actually been really meaningful. So there's some research highlighted by the World Health Organization that shows that these intergenerational setups can actually reduce loneliness and they improve overall life satisfaction, especially for older adults. And I know last week, you spoke about the Zoomer boomer calling situation. So I'm sure we're both and you're, you know, well versed in the significance of what it means to have that intergenerational conversation.
No, yeah, no doubt. And, my good friend John Fiore, who, of course, Zach, when he went abroad to Florence, he stayed with an older family and lived with them. And the only expectation of them was that they ate dinner together, which I
Right.
just love that. And they did their best to try to speak in Italian. And if I go back, I remember we did this story earlier. I think it was our first episode about the seniors taking classes at Ohio State University, which I
Yeah.
just love that too. And I've also found that some of my best moments have been spending time with my grandparents in their home and just listening and trying to hold on to that because, for these people, like it's their, I mean, God forbid, it's their last moments, around people, and soaking that in is so awesome. And I think that program is huge. I hope that is something that gets implemented here and becomes somewhat normal.
And I really like that you also brought up John because this ties in with what's in the rest of the story, which is just that it's not a one-sided relationship. Like the students benefit just as much,
Totally.
and that's why it works so much because the students they gain perspective, connection, and really a sense of purpose. And I think that this whole idea kind of reframes what loneliness is. Like instead of being loneliness as something you just deal with individually, it just becomes something you can actually design around. Like you
Totally.
don't have to take on loneliness by yourself, which is the definition, but you do it exactly with other people that may also perfectly understand what you're going through. And so I
Also,
think
like,
that
also, like,
go
anyone, any age group can be lonely.
yeah, 100%. And I think the loneliness also probably feels different at different stages of life. Like,
Zach, it's funny you say that. That's a huge talking point that I'm going to bring up in our conversation later.
well, I'm excited for it. But just to put a bow on this story, I think maybe the main takeaway here is that connection, it doesn't always have to be forced or manufactured. Sometimes it's just about putting people in the right environment and letting relationships naturally go from there. Like the idea that you're not paying rent, but all you got to do is share a meal. Like I think everyone in the world would take up that
Yeah.
opportunity and love it because you get to meet somebody new and gain a great perspective. So I really like this story, and I think it's tackling loneliness in a whole new light.
Think that was a really good way to kick us off, Zach. I thought you explained that very well, and I think you are absolutely right. I think everyone would trade rent for just sharing some experiences with, some new people, well, regardless of age. But I think that's a good pickup point to our next story, which is the one that I'm bringing up. I told Zach about this story and he loved it going into it. So these five friends, Zach, from California, take the same picture on a vacation together that they take like every 5 years. They've been doing it since 1982 and they're 62 years old now. They have a 10th portrait planned for 2027. That's like almost 50 years they've been
Yeah.
doing this together. So
It's
I'll just really quickly and then I'll let you talk. So they all went to high school together at Santa Barbara High School. And now I think, like I said, they're 62 years old. John, Mark, Dallas, John, and JD.
I just love that so much. You said 50 years they're coming on.
Yeah, pretty much. Their first picture together was 1982, and they're coming up on 2027. And they've hit a benchmark of taking that photo every 5 years, pretty much since then.
So I think in terms of just our theme, right? Like if you're a member of that friend group and hopefully I'm sure they're all doing well in their own way to be able to at least meet up every 5 years, but having that constant in your life and
Yeah.
just knowing that no matter what, I'm gonna see these guys, we're gonna go on this trip and we're gonna take this picture. It's reaffirming to all of them that they're never alone, you know?
100%, Zach. You couldn't have said that any better.
Yeah, and I just thank you. I think that
Sorry, I
I
got
think
like a little excited there.
no, no,
You're
that
so
answered
right
no.
though.
I just really believe in that, and I believe that there's things that maybe we should do with our friend group and maybe start that because that's awesome, and I want to
Yeah.
adopt that.
And just it just goes to show the power of friendship. It
Yes,
just and like you said, you really are never alone. And now they have these photos of every 5 years. And it's also kind of cool because you get this shared experience, right? And you also see your most cherished people in your life and how they've grown up. I mean, a lot can happen between the age of 15 and 62. And
right.
you get to experience that with them and then also talk about it and learn and stay connected, most importantly.
Yes,
And
well,
combat
absolutely,
loneliness.
and it's such
Just
a creative way to do it, and that's
yeah,
because there's so many kind of the typical recommendations or just things to do, but I think my story and what you just brought up now just show that you can always get creative and you can find different ways to make connections with people. And it's just a
100%.
great reminder of that.
Yep. So we've got one more story here, which I'll share quickly, and then we'll kind of get to our conversation. I just love this one, not necessarily news, but just sort of fun. So organizers at the Philadelphia International Airport, Zach, this past Tuesday, were trying to assemble the longest cheesesteak line ever. They ended up getting it. It's a Guinness World Record. 1,291 cheesesteaks in a row, Philadelphia cheesesteaks. And of course, like your Sound Hero was last week, or Sound Heroes, I should say, with all the TSA workers, they weren't getting paid. Of course, Trump ended up signing that bill to kind of get that going. But at the end of it, all the organizers gave the cheesesteaks away to people in line at security and the TSA workers, which I just thought that was awesome. Just something worth highlighting. Don't know how much it really ties into our theme. Um, but you know what? Actually, if you're lonely and someone just hands you a sandwich, I feel like you'd feel a lot better.
100%. And I'd argue it really does tie into our theme because it's about so much about combating loneliness to me is just showing someone else that you're there. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I see you. I see the work you're doing. I know that you're not getting paid right now, and that's horrible, especially with this essential service you're providing.
Yeah.
Here's a sandwich. Like, it's not much, but I see you and I acknowledge you, and I hope that this makes your day better. I think that's I think that's perfect. And it also ties in with what we talked about in one of our earlier episodes. It could have been our second episode, but just how important it is that change comes at a local level, at a community level. And
Yeah.
like, is handing someone a sandwich the biggest change? No, but they helped someone's day, guaranteed. Like they made someone's day, and
Yes.
that's change. That's change enough in itself. So I
Yeah.
think that's a great
And again,
story.
it's like we always say, like you just never know what someone's going through. Like someone in that security line or a TSA worker could have been having the worst day ever, and just getting handed a sandwich, like just a random act of kindness, might have just made their day. You know?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Man, okay, that's a good place to stop for our stories. And now we're going to kind of kick into our conversation about combating loneliness. Zach, do we want to start with our strategies that we use to combat loneliness in our lives? I also, like I said earlier, kind of had the bit on the different kinds of loneliness that people experience. We can start there as well.
I think you start with that because then it ties into our differences between loneliness and solitude. So if you want to kick that off, I think that's a good place to
Okay, all
start.
right. I like that. So I remember earlier we were talking about how like, any age group, any people can experience loneliness. So I was reading an article, Zach, that there are four real stages of loneliness and that humans experience because it is kind of just this emotion that at some point in your life you will feel. If you're lucky, I guess maybe you might never feel it, but that's, the low percentage chance. There's the loneliness you feel as a child that's kind of just from neglect or just inexperience with life. There's the loneliness you experience when you're an adolescent, which is when you're learning about yourself and learning to make friends and learning to be a young adult, maybe in a new place, at a new job, seeking out new experiences. And then the two final loneliness like attributes are one, the loneliness you experience after a heartbreak when someone's no longer in your life that was taking up, a part of your life and filling a gap in your life, and now they're just gone, and it's someone that you don't really think of that way anymore. And then the last bit of loneliness is the loneliness of the inevitable loss of a person. Like, for example, like your spouse, if you've been together for 50 years and then they're gone, it's the loneliness you experience when you no longer have that person because they have been your life and now they're no longer there. So that was why I really like that first story you saw of, because I think children go through their own loneliness for whatever reason, but old people definitely go through their own loneliness. Like I think of my grandmother, my grandfather passed away when I was a young boy, but she's been without him for almost 20 years now. But he was her entire life, you know?
Yeah, the different types of loneliness is so poignant, especially in this conversation, because I think it really ties in with the fact of, that first story that we discussed, with just the fact that not only is it different stages and there's different kinds, but amongst those different stages and kinds of loneliness, everyone has their own perspective on it and thinks of it
Yeah.
differently. So going back to the first story, if you're a young person maybe experiencing loneliness and you're living with someone elderly experiencing loneliness, you'll gain so much perspective and knowledge from each other, just understanding their perspective. And
Yes.
that in itself is such a good way to deal with loneliness. Um, but it's such a tricky thing because me and you haven't experienced three out of four of those types. I mean,
Yeah.
well, we've experienced heartbreak and grief.
For sure.
We've dealt with some deaths, but it's different as you get older, I think.
Yeah.
And I think me and you expect to live long lives, so to truly experience those other kinds of loneliness hasn't really hit us yet. Um, but I think being aware of it and taking advantage of those opportunities to learn from people that have gone through it is only going to help.
It's about being
Um,
curious too, asking questions and like
yes,
understanding, like we should be reinforcing having those conversations, especially if we're in the same spaces like your story. Like you should ask an older person like that's lost a loved one, someone that's been in their life a long time, like what is it like post losing someone that was your entire world?
yes, and I really like what you said about reinforcing having those conversations because this ties into a different story I was reading. But in the UK, doctors within the National Health Service, they're actually using something called social prescribing. So rather than giving patients medication, they're actually referring them to community groups, volunteering opportunities, and even local activities, which to me, it follows kind of suit with the fact that with the saying like laughter is the best medicine.
Yeah.
Like you're having doctors prescribe social interaction. I think that is in a lot of ways so much better than typical things that a doctor can prescribe. Like
Yes.
I'm someone that's dealt with a psychiatrist like uh, since I was 16, and like the medications I get absolutely help me, but n no drug is going to help you the way that you can help yourself and that other people can help you, especially if it's something like
Yeah.
depression and loneliness that you're dealing with. Like making the effort to have those social interactions it's the key, really.
I
And
Zach,
then
I totally agree with you. And like you said, it's nothing against people that take medications. Like I think it's whatever works, honestly. Like whatever gets you through the day and helps you feel better. But I know for a fact, like when you visited me at Syracuse and I visited you at Miami, or we had shared experiences with friends like in the Outer Banks when we graduated high school, like I have never felt so good. Like
Yes.
I, it
I
could have
felt
rained.
whole. I felt complete.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just
Like
the
nothing could ruin my day.
and so this article that I was just citing, it also talks about how the fact that loneliness is not just emotional, like it has real physical and psychological effects.
Yeah.
When you're lonely, you're going to feel tired and you're going to feel drained and like even depressed in a lot of ways. And
So
this is
like
something.
can I
Go.
share like
Yeah.
I totally agree with that and some experience that I have with that. Like I think I called you when I was living in New York by myself. It was the first time that I'd ever lived in like a solo apartment. Like, I'd been in a dorm in college with friends, lived with my family all up until that, and it was really hard. Like you're so right. Like it is so tiring to be a little lonely because you are working so hard to do everything in the day plus just like getting by and then
Yes.
not having shared experiences with anyone else. And I was in school and I was with people, but I wasn't it was the first time in my life I hadn't been around my core group of friends and I wasn't I would say it was just the first time I was experiencing a little loneliness. It's at the adolescent level, like new experiences, new circumstances, job, and you're like the physical attribute is really important. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and I remember when you called me, and like I also wasn't in the best place either, and I was that call helped me so much. And so it's also moments like that where like I think we discussed it last week. Yeah, I think it was last week, but just the importance of calling someone,
Yeah.
and just what that can mean
Just
for
getting a
them.
little help
Yes.
or just having
Um,
a conversation, like you said last week.
and so I think now, might be a good time to segue into maybe the difference between loneliness and solitude.
Yeah.
Um, So this is a conversation me and Carson have had a bunch, and I cited this last week about how important that outward bound trip was for me, just the hiking trip I went on. But something I learned to really appreciate, and some advice I gave to Carson when he first moved to Green Bay was appreciating solitude because there's going to be moments when you're alone, and it's important not to get it confused with loneliness because just because you're alone at a certain given point of time, A, that's not going to last forever, but B, those moments are so important just to ground yourself and like you go on a walk, you sit alone, even you don't listen to any music, like you're just there in the moment, you don't have distractions. Those are the moments where you're going to find the biggest growth. And
Yeah.
so I think identifying if you're someone that does experience loneliness, I think identifying like, am I feeling lonely right now, or is this a good opportunity for me to take advantage of some needed solitude?
Yeah.
Um, like for me, I've always lived with roommates. I haven't lived on my own. So I go to work, I go home, I have two roommates, and that's kind of always how it's been for me. So I honestly really need those moments where I'm alone,
Yeah.
personally. Um,
I was reading somewhere that there's some negative connotations around being alone. And the article that I was reading was about how there's sort of like this stigma around going to a restaurant by yourself. And I think that in and of itself reinforces this loneliness feeling because inherently there's nothing wrong with that. Like me going to Chipotle and getting food is the by myself is the exact same as me going to a restaurant and getting food and sitting
yeah.
down. Like actually the other day I went to a restaurant that like is across from my apartment and I just brought a book and just got food by myself.
And to me, that sounds like a lovely day. And
It was.
I'm so happy you brought up the stigma because there's two things I want to share. Is one, I remember I was in my apartment and my friend's girlfriend walks into the apartment and I was like, "Oh, hey, how's your meal?" And she goes, oh, I saw a girl eating alone at the restaurant. I wanted to cry." And I looked at her and I was like, "I think she was just probably having a nice night. Like, I don't think it was a big deal." And my friend's girlfriend looked really upset. And I don't know, I just didn't get that because something like a conversation I had with my therapist one time was like it was after I was going through a breakup and she said to me, "Go take yourself on dates. Like
Yeah.
that's a good practice. Like if you were going to go to sushi for two, go to sushi for one, don't bring your earbuds, stay off your phone, and just enjoy the ambiance and just be there.
Yeah.
And I think that changed my life, that advice, because
Yeah.
that was another thing that made me really learn to appreciate those moments by myself. And it wasn't, I didn't feel sad for myself that I didn't have like someone meaningful with me,
So
you
this
know?
exactly kind of like bled into my thought process. Like when you pursue solitude, like when it's a choice that you're making, a state of being that you're kind of looking for, it reinforces this positive emphasis that it's a good thing. If
Yes.
you're going after it rather than it being something that you're kind of like, I should be doing, like you were like, no, no, like I'm gonna do this because I was told that it might help me and I'm gonna go seek it out. Like
Yes.
it's not like therapy. It's just something that I feel like might make me feel better. And that again reinforces that it is a good thing.
You're spitting right now. Like I think you just hit the nail on the head with that because it goes back to what we talked about in our episode about joy, why it's important to see joy everywhere. Joy is a choice you make.
Yeah.
Just the same way solitude can be a choice you make instead of feeling lonely. Just the same way getting up in the morning, even if you hate it, but just taking a shower can change your whole day.
So it's so funny, Zach, that you bring up like joy and like you can choose to like find the joy around you. So I wrote this down and I said, solitude is a choice you make, choosing to be alone to get better at enjoying one's company or to reflect.
Wow.
That was like my takeaway of solitude because like right now, like we're together, but like leading up to this, like I've been in my apartment preparing for the show and like I've been reflecting and being by myself and like being very content. And like yesterday, I actually I don't want to give away, it's part of my win of the week, but I like long story short, I did some things by myself that I like really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And that was all my choice.
I think, I mean, if you don't mind, I'd love to just segue into my notable quotable for today because
Let's do it.
I think that's perfect. Actually, what? Can you say what you wrote down one more time? Because I had something to say, but I don't want to
Yeah.
lose.
Solitude is a choice. You're choosing to be alone to get better at enjoying your own company or to reflect.
Yes. So I loved that quote because I think it also ties in with the saying of absence making the heart grow fonder. Like
Oh,
if you're
wow. Yeah.
if you're around people all the time, you're not going to appreciate their company until you're not. And so I think taking those moments of practicing solitude away from people that you love, it not only makes you appreciate them more, but it makes you understand how to show your appreciation for them more. Because the last thing you want to do is take your friends and family for granted. Um,
Totally, Zach. It also helps you realize that some people in your life are a product of your environment, and some people are the people that you choose and want to be around. Like we haven't been in the same place for 5 years,
yeah,
and we're still the best of friends.
we've made it work because we make an effort,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think, but now going into my notable quotable, so this is what I found for today. Loneliness expresses the pain of being alone, and solitude expresses the glory of being alone. Um,
Wow.
so the way I interpreted that is sort of just a frame of mind state. Like feeling lonely is not inherently bad, and it's like what we discussed last week about um, loving reality. Like in those moments when you feel lonely, like that can be a good thing. You just have to trick your mind into avoiding those bad thoughts of how lonely you feel and instead reframing it into like, wow, I'm alone. I can do anything I want right now.
Yeah.
Like and that is freeing. It's so
Yeah.
freeing.
Because I'm sure like there are moments like our parents have like wanted to be alone in a way of like they just want to like be with themselves and feel a little solitude. Where they have to deal with like a family all the time. And like there, you can feel grateful for both things. And oh, I kind of just lost my train of thought there about solitude. Um, Tell me your quote one more time again.
Sure, sure. Loneliness expresses the pain of being alone, and solitude expresses the glory of being alone.
Yeah, just a really powerful quote. I totally was going somewhere with that, but
Hey,
that's
no
okay.
worries.
I'll give you my next quote to keep the conversation going.
Sure.
So I read this today, and it was loneliness hits when the day is over, and you have 1,000 things you want to say, but no one to say them to.
Mm.
Because I think a little bit of loneliness is like you might have like some racing thoughts or some unconquered things that you didn't get to do throughout the day that you would like to explain to someone. And when they're not there, that's when you really feel empty. Because at the end of the day, a cup's only empty until it gets poured out, you know?
So I love that quote because I really it resonates with me so much. Like you've never been one to enjoy the rave scene. Like that's I've mentioned it to you just how much I enjoy it. But for my close friends, like we've had this kind of rave group going for like 4 years, and it's hard to explain the wholesome dynamic that's with it. But it really is. There's so much love there whenever we're at these events with each other. But with specific people like my roommates, like Justin and Jonah, and others from our rave group, like when they're not with me and like the DJ throws like some filthy bass on and I'll find myself looking like to see them and then they're not there and I'm just like I wanted to experience that with you. Or like when I'm watching a movie or like when you're watching Blue Mountain State alone and you'll send me a clip, but I know that like for me, if I'm watching Blue Mountain State alone, I'll look over to my right and like imagine you're there when Sammy says something. Like
Yeah,
and it's sort of like that. It's like when you're lonely and you really you just know that there's one person that will resonate with this comment and you
yeah,
can't share with them. It's a sinking feeling.
yeah.
And not, I don't want to keep yapping, but I think we didn't really touch on our strategies yet.
Oh, true, true.
And I think what you said is really that quote relates to me about like journaling. Like, I
Yeah.
think that writing things down and writing those thoughts down that you want to tell people, but you can't, having them for yourself written down so you don't forget them and you can go back to those thoughts is such an amazing way to combat loneliness.
So I think my biggest strategy is just calling people,
Yeah.
honestly. Like whenever I feel like an itch of loneliness or like this feeling of like emptiness, just because I'm not getting the social interaction that I feel like I need for energy, I just call someone. Like what I try to do is like I feel like sometimes I'll call people in the car to like pass the time, but often I'll just call someone because I want to fill up my time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like if like there's just nothing happening, it's not to pass the time, it's because I want to like hear someone's voice or like learn something or talk to someone that I haven't talked to in for a while. Like just the other day, like you wouldn't know who this is. Her name's Lillian Northrup, but we did our senior capstone class together. And I hadn't talked to her in like, gosh, probably like a year. And I just texted her out of the blue and I was like, hey, like, you want to like catch up soon? Like, because I saw like she works for this like digital media company. I saw one of her videos pop up my timeline, and I was like, I should just reach out to her. Like, we're good friends, and I haven't had a reason to call her in a while. And it's not that I needed one, but I was just like, I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm just gonna call her.
Yes. And you've always been really good about that. And it's something that I still struggle with because I loved what you said about instead of passing time, it's about filling time. And like there's so many moments in my day where I can just call someone that I miss. But I miss that opportunity because I'm focused on quite honestly maybe just being lazy and
Just
just
like
like
whatever. Just like life gets in the way sometimes.
because like I just know any given conversation I have could get to 30 minutes or an hour, and
Yeah,
that thought gets draining for me. But it's so much better to do that than to just let those moments pass.
yeah.
Because if you have time, like chances are the person you're calling has time and they want to hear from you.
And also, it's like for me calling like Lillian, like I don't know the next time I'm gonna hear from her or see her. So like we got to like reconnect and share parts of our life, and I learned about all the good that's happening, and that kind of filled me up with some good too. Like that emptiness feeling just immediately goes away because you're
Yes.
you're often calling these people because they're going through something good or you have some sort of shared experience and you want to hear about it. So that's probably my greatest strategy. Also, I want to get back to one of our quotes. I know we're kind of like jumping all over this
Yeah,
conversation,
sure.
but I love it. So I think you'd really like this quote. The quote is, "Don't get up, just sit a while and think. Never be afraid to just sit a while and think."
It just reinforces the glory of solitude, really.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
relish those opportunities that you get to spend with yourself because life gets busy, especially if you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing and you're seizing opportunities. Like it might get to the point where you can't find time for yourself. Like my coworker Joey, I've brought him up before, but his free time belongs to the subway. That's it. That's the only free time he gets all day. He's up at 5:45 to learn, and all the other time is spent with his family at synagogue or at work. So relishing those opportunities is important.
I remember you and I talked about, I think earlier this year, like, right now we want to be where we would be in 20 years, like making more money, family, different life circumstances, all these things. But in 20 years, I'll want to be 23 years old again, young, energetic, doing all the things I want to do all the time because I can, because I have very little responsibilities, you know? Like, and it just comes back to like, you should be so grateful to be having some solitude in your life right now. Because
Yes.
like you said, like, I don't know in 20 years if, I mean, like, hopefully I have a family, I have a wife. I'd like to believe that I'll have all those things, but again, I probably would want to be where I am right now when
Yeah.
I'm in that moment. It's just like, you always want what you can't have.
Yeah. Uh, I I just think you hit the nail on the head and kind of put a bow on it. Like if I had to just summarize the conversation a few ways, it's call people because it's important, and
Yep.
when you have time, do it. But when you need time for yourself, or when you have time for yourself that you didn't expect it, don't treat it as loneliness. Treat it as needed solitude.
Yeah.
And you'll get the important people in your life back or new ones. Just whatever stage you're at, like there's no shortage of people in this world that can relate to you and understand you. Even
Yeah.
though it feels like sometimes you might be alone.
And you never are. You never are. I
Never
think
are.
that's a perfect place to stop. We'll do our sound heroes and then we'll wrap up with our wins of the week. Do you want to do your sound hero first? Or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first because I think you talked about yours briefly, and I think it might be better. So I'd like to let you do
Okay.
that. Um, my silent hero, not super related to the theme. I just thought I loved it. This is a person who's very well known, but it's not necessarily for helping people. His name is Cranked At. He's a DJ. Um, one of my favorite DJs. I've seen him over 10 times at this point. And I was just at Ultra Music Festival with my buddies. He had an event after Ultra Music Festival. We're all there, we're dancing. Four separate times during his set, he stopped and paused all the music because he saw someone in the crowd that needed help. You
Wow.
know, unfortunately, it's a thing at these things where people indulge too much and they maybe do things that they shouldn't be doing and they need medical assistance. But it's very rare that an artist will stop his whole show because he sees someone, and it's hard to see,
Yeah.
but it happened four times and like threw Narcan into the crowd to make sure that like just to do everything they could to get that person help. And I just think that's such an important thing. Like knowing that the guy hosting this event, it's his event, is stopping his entire show because he sees one of his fans that need help that paid money to be there. Like that to me shows that you're never alone.
Yeah.
And it was great to see how much he cared.
Kind
So
of
that
just reinforces some faith in humanity, honestly.
yes. Yes. So that Crank, that's my silent hero.
Dude.
Also amazing sets that I watched from him. So
Shout out Crank That.
shout out Crank that
No,
Cleveland kid. So,
I think that is a perfect silent hero. And actually, I think, we always say like these are the people that don't get appreciated as much. And like these people, my person is also like pretty well known. So my silent hero is Gary Woodland,
oh yeah.
who won the Houston Open, and it was his first win on PGA Tour on the PGA Tour since 2020. Sorry, I think he won in 2019. It's his first win since getting brain surgery in 2023. That's what it is.
Wow.
But like, I don't know if you've seen his episode on Full Swing, like the Netflix documentary.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
For anyone that likes sports, likes a comeback story, especially likes golf, it's a must watch. It's like 50 minutes. Honestly, it brought me to tears watching it because it like who doesn't love a comeback story, And he's had it like really tough and he's so authentic and honest about like how hard his recovery process has been, which I think is really cool because I think it's really easy to like just kind of bottle up all those feelings, especially as a public figure. Like you don't want to share all the time what you're going through, but he's like, no, like I get strength in telling people like that I'm making it through. So that was really cool. He shot a 21 under over the 4 days. So
It's a pretty good
Um,
wrap. Pretty good 4 days.
that's a very good 4 days. And honestly, I'm gonna do my win of the week first because it just ties right into it. So
Sure.
my win of the week, Zach, was buying golf clubs.
Nice.
I bought a set yesterday. I was talking to friends. I had mentors. Shout out Anthony Calhoun. He was just like, "Hey, like, gotta start getting into golf. Like you're living in Wisconsin. You're young. You should be playing. It's not as expensive as other places. So just go do it. Spend a little money. Spend a little too much money, but I felt good leaving and like changed up my swing and like that was a little win for me. Oh, and also I got the West Appear job. The football. That's set in stone now. So
It's so huge. Two massive wins. Like it's good to treat yourself, and golf is a great place, honestly, to just go out there alone if you want to. And that's a good place to practice solitude. You have an activity, focused on your swing. You try not to get too mad. It's a good
that's kind
game.
of what I was alluding to earlier that I didn't want to give away that I like when did this. So yeah,
No, I
that's
love
my
that.
wins of the week. Sorry.
And I'm very happy. Sorry, there's a police siren behind me, but um, can you hear that?
No, actually I can't. You're good.
My bad, guys. Congrats on the football job. Huge. Really proud of you. Seriously.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate you. Of
Um, so we'll finish with my win of the week, and that was just Ultra Music Festival with my buddies. John,
course.
John flew down. Both my roommates flew down to Miami, and we stayed. If this is the first time listening to our show, I went to the U and Ultra Music Festival last year. My graduating year was this magical culmination of really all the people that I love the most throughout college coming together and kind of the last hurrah before we graduate. And I'm very close with the class of kids below me. And so all of us graduated, we flew down to stay with them. And it was really just a magical weekend where I got to spend wholesome time with some of my closest friends and just share the fact that I'm so proud of them for graduating and getting to this point. Like, shout out to Flavortown for hosting me, all the people that I saw. You guys, like, it was really just such a magical time. I love you all, if you're listening, and thanks for being my win of the week. And honestly, my win for the past 3 months. I was really looking forward to it. No slip ups. It was perfect, and definitely reminded me that I'm not alone and that I
Yeah.
have a great I have great people in my life.
That's a really good win of the week. My mom said to me when I graduated college, the key to adulting is always having something to look forward to.
Yeah,
And just hearing that for the last 3 months, like I assume that's when you had it booked, that you've been looking forward to that. Like that's living right there. Like
yeah,
looking forward to like some shared experiences with people that you just absolutely adore.
yeah. I mean, honestly, it was longer than that. Like we've this has been in the making for a while, and it just it meant everything. So shout out to all of them. With that, I think that makes our episode for this week. I just
Dude,
wanted I
can I just say I think this has been our my favorite episode?
I think this has definitely been our best episode. I felt the same way. Just to put a bow on it, if you're feeling lonely, I promise you're not alone. Relish your solitude. If you ever need help, do not be afraid to ask for it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're all trying to get by together. Thank you so much for tuning in to Friends for Good. We'll be back next week. Follow us on Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube. Everything will be in the description. So thanks so
Hey,
much for tuning in.
I think we'll just cut it off there. Again, thanks for joining us. That's Friends for Good, episode 5. We'll catch you next week.